And then when we're on our backs here, give yourself a couple of breaths, just deep inhales, good relaxing exhales. So taking a moment to connect with our intention for today. The intention is about ultimately helping us raise our vibration, meaning we're living in a happier emotional state. We're happy, we're fulfilled with our life, good things are happening for us. And the reason why I'm working on us raising that vibration is because it just feels better. I personally think that we're closer to God or the source or the universe or whatever you want to call it when we start to lift our emotional state to be higher. And I also think that law of attraction works quite a bit better when we feel good, because then we're attracting more of that feel good state. So we begin to see more of that good all around us. And so that's ultimately what our intention is about. But we're doing that today by working specifically with some of the lower chakras. So working on the root chakra and the sacral chakra. So my thinking behind it is if we really help those two lowest chakras to feel good and energized and secure, then naturally we're going to be boosting the energy up toward the other chakras. If those first two chakras don't feel energetically safe and secure, then the energy is going to be going there and we can't move our energy higher. So as one example, if we don't feel physically safe in our neighborhood or in our house, then it's really hard to move the energy up the rest of your chakras, because the energy is so stuck on that idea of safety and security and doing whatever it requires to be financially secure as well as physically secure. And so that's kind of that perfect example. If you're stuck in these lower chakras, you can't move up. So today we're really going to help to stretch and energize. That means these will be lots of leg stretches as well as hip stretches. And so that'll be the intention. So you kind of have that clear idea of where we're headed. You can place that idea in the back of your mind, because sometimes the intuition will speak to us as we travel through the class, teaching us, perhaps try this thing in your life, or perhaps, this is a stretch, maybe I can include the rest like 3 times throughout the day or something like that. So with that idea in our mind to help us get started, let's begin to take our knees into the chest. Let's rock around just a little bit on that low back. Some days this is about the low back for me, kind of rocking the muscles out to help them out. Other days it's about the sacrum. So then I'm rolling around. Perfect. So let's take one more good breath in and out. And then from here, let both legs start to stretch up to the sky. Our hands can be behind the thighs or maybe behind the ankles, however deep it wants to go for us. And take a couple of good breaths in and out, just feeling what the hamstrings are communicating to us. This is a really deep stretch for one of our first poses of the day. So breathe, relax into it, and just know that this will start to get more easeful the further we go in toward our class. Beautiful. From here, we'll turn this into happy baby. The knees start to go wide. Grab your hands onto the outside edges of the feet, or if that's too far, grab ankles. And this can be with stillness or with movement. Maybe you're pulling the knees down, maybe you're rocking left and right, stretching a leg all the way up and then the other. Beautiful. Releasing the hands now. Bring the legs together. These are right above our hips. Try to see if you can muscularly get the legs a little bit straighter. So for me, naturally, the tendency will be to want to bend, and that's okay if you don't have the strength to keep them straight. But as much as possible, try to engage the quads. This is building strength through those quadricep muscles. And so from here, with that very long leg, open the arms out to each side. Let's take 5 cycles, opening the legs out as wide as they want to go right now. And then exhale, bring them back together. Taking 4. 3, 2, 1. Let the legs open back out one more time. Take the hands to rest on the inner thighs, helping to stretch the legs nice and wide. Notice how in this moment, the sacrum is flat to the ground. And so from here is we're going to start bending the left knee and planting the left foot on the ground. See if you can keep that sacrum just as flat, meaning just by planting this foot doesn't mean that the right leg suddenly flops open to the ground. We're keeping that sacrum very active. That means the left knee probably is still going wide to counterbalance, but we're trying to extend this right leg muscularly straight as it's going wide. Good. Now leg goes up to the sky, just that right one. Pull the leg in just a bit deeper than before. Maybe you can even lift the forehead up, trying to get it closer to the knee. And then as we relax the head back down, this leg travels over toward the left side. It's still straight. We're opening up to the point where this right hip is just starting to come off the ground. So enjoy that stretch getting into the outer IT band and thigh area. Another good inhale. And then exhale, release this thigh to cross deeply on top of the other thigh. You can either do this single wrap with just the thigh crossing over, or the double wrap with the toes trying to wrap around also, so your choice. And then up above our head, we're gonna wind the right elbow under the left elbow. Perhaps fingers can touch the ground above the head. The goal is to help to stretch the shoulders. So I'm trying to push my shoulders away from ears and then allow my fingers to try to drop up above head. So those shoulders expanding open. Adding in the core, take a huge inhale. Exhale, crunch up, here's 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. The arms spread open, but the legs start to fall over into a twist with this bound position. What I love about that is it pulls the hips much deeper into the twist than just working on, one knee traveling over, or a different variation of a twist. Take one more inhale. Exhale, hips will start to travel down to the ground. We're extending the legs up to the sky again. Arms are open to left and right. And from this position, let's do 5 more cycles, opening the legs wide and then bringing them back together. So starting to travel open for 5, and then introduce them back together, return. 4, Okay, then as we start to bend this right knee, the right foot can rest on the ground. Make sure that you keep it in balance so the sacrum doesn't start tilting over to the other side. So we're still keeping this left leg open. Maybe you can pull it higher up, as in closer to the shoulder. Another good inhale. Exhale, the leg comes back up. See if you can grab onto the back side of the leg and pull the forehead in toward that knee. And when we relax the head back down, the straight leg crosses over toward the right side to the point of getting that IT band and hip stretch going on. So another good inhale. Exhale, drop this thigh on top of the other, single wrap or double wrap, your choice. We're winding the left elbow under the right this time. And then the fingers try to touch the ground right above the head. See if that's possible. Push the shoulders away from ears to get that good stretch going on. Another inhale. Exhale, 5 crunches coming in. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Spread the arms open. Let the knees fall over to the left, to the right this time. Enjoying a nice inhale. Exhale, unwind. When the legs uncross, we're going to roll up like a ball to come up toward a seated position. So maybe 2 or 3 cycles. Good, and when you're ready to be up, spread the knees into cobbler's pose. So bottoms of feet together. Start off with the spine lifted tall before you begin to tilt forward and release. When we begin to rise back up, let the legs open to a wide figure V shape. Again, we want the posture to be tall to start, so if that means we're a little bit bent in the knees, that's okay. Posture's tall as we start to walk our fingers forward, easing into any space that's available. Okay, and walking back in, slide this left foot into the center, and then we're going to cradle out the right. So maybe we cradle with our hands, maybe we slide a little bit further to the forearm or to the elbow. Either way, reset the posture tall before we start to rock that hip out. Don't feel like there's any rush in rocking it either. Sometimes I go really quick, and that could feel nice. But today I'm noticing if I'm really going slow, I'm able to ease into some of those muscles that I might not have included otherwise. Good, so when that hip starts to feel pretty complete, drop this shin on top of the other shin, set up the posture tall, tilt forward until fingers are on the ground, and then if there's space to continue to slide forward, find that release, nice and deep. When we walk our hands back up, we're going to clasp our hands around the ball of the right foot, and we're leaning back just a little bit to counterbalance the weight of our leg. And then this right leg is going to try to reach upward as much as we can straighten the leg, and then let it bend back to a wide position, almost like a half happy baby again. So we're reaching it back up. Here's 4, and bend. 3, 2, one more time, straightening, hold it straight for this last one. Maybe lift it a little bit higher. And then now this right leg gets to relax on the ground. Cradle out the left. Bringing it into that best rocking that's possible right now. When we release, this left shin drops on top of the right. Notice that if the hip has to lift at all, you're going to just drop it down to cross leg instead. That's perfectly fine. And then our posture set up stacked. And then we lean forward until fingers are on the ground. And from that point, you're welcome to continue to walk forward. Deep breaths are so key when we get to these holds, because the deep breathing helps us to include some of the deeper muscle groups, those deeper fibers within the muscle groups. When we start to walk back in, we're trying to clasp hands around the ball of that left foot. Lean back a little bit for balance and see how much we can extend that left leg upward. And play with it. It's absolutely fine if it's not all the way straight. We're still warming up here. And so then let's start those pulses. The knee goes super wide like a half happy baby, and then stretch it back up as much as possible. Here's 4. And up. 3. 2. Last one. And then hold it straight just a bit longer. A few good breaths. Pull, pull, pull. How much lift can we include? Beautiful work. With the release, let's cross our legs, try to come up and through onto hands and knees. Here, let's take some of our cat-cows. So begin to explore through that spine, especially paying attention to the low back and how it's able to receive the stretch. Up and down, nice and gradual. Take one more cycle. And then here, walk the hands one palm distance forward. That should set us up in a perfect spot for downward facing dog. Tucking the toes, lift the hips. See how the legs and hips are receiving this pose today. Add absolutely little wiggles that will help you out. Begin to float the right leg up to the sky. At first, it's a straight leg to see what the reach capability is. And then bend the knee for a moment, opening the hip behind you. This gives me a nice stretch into the front of that right hip. Good, so then straightening the leg back out for a moment. Step this right foot to the outside of right hand. This sets us up for lizard pose. You could be a very active lizard working on warming up your body and working on strength. So that would mean that you keep the back knee lifted. If you drop it down, that turns it into more of a flexibility-based posture. You could even lower to elbows. So you have complete control over exactly which qualities you're doing here based on if you're working on stretching or strengthening today. So starting to work up onto hands if we dropped down at all. From here, the hips go over the back knee so that this front leg can start to straighten out. This is going to be a bit wider off the mat than normal. Normally we cut it right in the center, but that's okay. This includes different muscle groups going a bit wider. So let that happen. We're trying to relax down so that we can touch our hands maybe to the ground. If the ground is too far, use a block. Hands can be on the inside or outside of the leg, whatever seems to be working with your balance today. Okay, scooting back forward, we have that right knee over the right ankle again. Hands are on the floor. Let's lift up the back knee, so that nice strong version again. Holding here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then step that left foot to the outside of left hand. This will set us up to go directly down into Malasana, yogic squat. So the elbows are pushing the knees wide. That helps the hips to expand open. As much as possible, allow the spine to try to straighten out. That includes so many deeper muscle groups with the hip area. Now drop the hands to the ground. Start to straighten the legs, turning the toes forward. We're getting back into that root chakra, trying to allow the legs to straighten as much as they feel safe doing. So from here, slide the hands up the shins, come to a half lift and pause for a moment. Notice how this includes that low back, just a bit deeper than before. That can make you include some of the deeper hamstring muscles because the erector spinae are grabbing onto the sitting bones and pulling them longer. So one more inhale here. Exhale, slide the hands to the ground. Start to step or jump back into a plank position, holding in plank for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Try to lower chaturanga. Come up to a beautiful back bend. And tucking the toes, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Little wiggles are welcome to be brought back to the body. Starting on the second side, left leg floats. At first it's just straight, trying to explore how high it can possibly reach. And then bend the knee, sending the toes behind you until you feel the front of the left hip opening. Good inhale. And then exhale, straighten the leg back out. Step the foot to the outside of left hand. This is back to lizard, so maybe the back knee is lifted, maybe it's lowered. You can be on wrists, or if the reach is possible, maybe drop down to one or to both elbows. Notice how much the spine likes to round here. It's not necessarily right or wrong either way, but I like to be conscious of it. So I'm noticing, okay, if I'm trying to straighten my spine out more, do I feel this deeper in the hips and the legs? If not, it's not that significant. But if it does, this could make a huge difference in the posture for people. Coming back up onto hands. This is the point where we lift the back knee up. Holding here, almost like a plank variation, for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now step right foot to outside of right hand. Sink the hips low into Malasana. Know that if Malasana is just not working for you, you can always sit on a block instead, and that'll make it possible. Occasionally there's people that can't get their feet all the way on the ground. So that would be a place where the prop of a blanket could work. You roll up just the edge of the blanket and place it under the heels. So at least you can rest your heels down onto something. See if you can press the elbows just a little bit wider into each side. Nice inhale. Exhale, hands drop down, straighten the legs, turn the toes forward. It's okay that they're a bit wide. Just enjoy that positioning. Play with the flexibility of the legs. What can we do to help it out? Maybe I'm lifting up a bit higher so my legs go straighter. And then from that position, maybe I start to work my torso back down to release. Just be playful and conscious of what's going on and what affects what within your body. Coming up to the half lift. Feel the spine lengthening. Inhale. Exhale, hands down, step or jump to plank. Holding here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower chaturanga. Up to a nice back bend. And downward facing dog. Floating right leg up to the sky. We're going to send that right knee under and through into pigeon pose. The back knee scoots back and let yourself rest immediately down into sleeping pigeon. We're going to take a couple of variations of pigeon pose today, but this first one is just simply this easeful resting down to help introduce our legs and hips deeper and deeper into these stretches. Take 2 more breaths here. And then coming back up onto hands, tuck the back toes. Try to lift directly to 3-legged dog. Right leg floats. And then right foot down, take the left leg up. Send it under and through into sleeping pigeon. Scoot the back knee back and then rest down. Notice the sacrum again. If you were to completely collapse onto that left hip, your sacrum would be absolutely tilted. If you had a serving tray on that side, it would definitely fall over. So instead, we keep the hips even right there in the middle. Take a good inhale. Exhale, planting the hands, tuck the back toes. Trying to go directly to 3-legged dog, left leg floats. And then it's down. So from here, take 2 or 3 more breaths with this downward facing dog, trying to ease into greater mobility and flexibility. The hips lifting, the legs straightening. If you get all the way straight, maybe the heels are even trying to drop down just a little bit. Deep inhale. Exhale, let's work our toes up to the top until we're in that standing forward fold. Again, try to reset the legs to the longest position possible. Deep inhale. Exhale. Inhale to rise. Always know you can have bent knees as you come up if that makes it so your head doesn't have any sort of rush. So then hands at the heart, take a couple of breaths. Good. So our feet are grounded into the earth. That's part of our structure and stability of the root chakra, is knowing that we have balance if we press down. That's where our strong lift comes up. Takes away some of that fear of falling that might eventually start to happen in life. So posture is lifting nice and tall. Hands are at the heart. We're going to play with a couple of balancing poses, turning into a little flow. So this starts off with tree pose. Maybe the right foot comes to the ankle. Maybe it goes up to the thigh. Just make sure it's not directly on the knee. The knee doesn't need any extra pressure. So posture setting up very tall. If this isn't too hard, it's pretty easeful for you. You always have the idea to grow branches, expanding the arms upward. Beautiful. Heading out of the tree pose, you're going to release this right foot from the thigh and point the right knee forward, trying to stay with balance. From here, let's try to take a twist. Left hand goes to the outer part of that right thigh, and the right arm starts to open out behind us. Returning forward, take right ankle on left thigh, and left hip start to sit back, maybe with hands resting on the knee and the ankle, maybe dropping down to elbows. Rising up, float this right knee again. Pick it back like a supported warrior 3, fly through the air, and then gently land that foot, the toes and the heel are down. Clasp your hands behind your back and pull into a beautiful heart opener, stretching through those shoulders. Keep the front knee strongly bent so that we're toning and strengthening that leg. When we drop our hands, they go to the inside of that right foot. Counterbalance your hips by pushing the hips backwards as the arms walk off that top right corner of the mat. Spine is getting pulled really long, kind of like the feeling of a down dog. Good. From here, pivot all the toes to face toward that long right edge of the mat. You come directly into a standing forward fold. Choose your favorite arm position. Arms can be on the floor. Arms can be walking under and through. They can be on the ankles. Notice what's working for this first variation. From here, start to turn the toes outward to 45-degree angles. Bend the knees and bring hands to the inner parts of the knees, pushing the hips really wide open. You could be rocking here, left and right, or you could be with stillness, just right in the center. Straightening the legs, turn the toes back to the long edge, and we're going to take pyramid pose to each side. So now right toes turn to that right short edge and slide the hands down that right thigh, pyramid. Maybe you end up at the shins, maybe at the floor. Walking the hands back up to the hips, we switch to the other side. So going over toward this left long edge and then slide down into the pyramid pose from here. Okay, so from here, step both feet up to the top of the mat. You end up in a beautiful standing forward fold. Take a couple of breaths. Bending the knees, roll our way up to stand. Hands at the heart. Let yourself settle back down into your roots. Feel your feet connecting down to the ground. Okay, so standing up nice and tall, mountain. Let's begin to play with our second side. So first it's the tree pose. It's the left foot that goes to the ankle or the calf or the thigh. Remember that your hips, the bones themselves are facing forward, and we're trying to get that left knee to open as much as it can without readjusting the hips. So not pulling the hips out of that strong structure that's upright. So perhaps sometimes hands at the heart is about the best we can do. Even hands at the hips is fine. If the stability is okay, maybe you start to grow branches, expanding upward really strongly. One more breath in. And exhale, that left knee floats in front of us. We take our right hand to the outer left thigh, and then the left arm open to twist behind us. Good, returning forward. We take that left ankle to the right thigh, and we start to bend our hips so that our knee never goes past those toes, but we're sitting back. Maybe the hands can help to press that left knee open. Maybe we're dropping to elbows. Feel your foot rooting into the ground. One more inhale. Exhale, come back up to the bent knee. Start to kick the leg back like a warrior three, and then land the entire left foot on the ground. And we're here, hands clasped behind the back. Pull the arms away from us, opening the shoulders as we bow down. Good inhale. Exhale, hands come to the inner part of that front foot. The hips counterbalance backwards as the fingertips try to walk as far forward off that top left edge of the mat as possible. Again, going to wide angle forward fold from this. The toes turn to that long left edge of the mat. And just let your spine dangle as your hands are choosing your favorite spot. The spot that helps you feel like you're maximizing the stretch. Good. Again, turning the toes outward to the 45-degree angles. Bring the hands to the inner parts of knees. And this time we'll take a little twist. So right shoulder dips forward. Feel the spine twist. It's like we're helping to introduce the spine a little bit higher up, or the energy a little bit higher up the spine, traveling up the chakras. And twist to the other side. Good. This time when we come back up through the center, take 2 more breaths. And then coming all the way up to stand, we're going to fold the 2 edges of the mat inward. This will help us to set up for frog pose, one of the deepest hip openers. And so we're folding it in just to help make sure that the knees are plenty padded. We don't want to hurt the knees at all. So then once you've got it folded in, place the inner knee of each side nice and wide onto the mat. This is as wide as we can spread the knees apart. And make sure that the hips are directly in line with the knees. That means that you're not going super far forward and you're not sitting back like a child pose. You're right above it. And then from here, most people can drop down to elbows. So if you're here, try to flatten the low back. Keep the breath flowing. Occasionally, there's people that can widen the elbows and start melting the heart down toward the ground. But if that makes it so that you're sacrificing the posture, meaning hips actually traveled forward or backward from doing that, just come right back up to elbows. It's better to be in perfect alignment than to be in a deeper, like what we would call a deeper variation. You can start to feel those inner thighs really speaking with us. See if you can send waves of relaxation through that part of our body for 3 more breaths. When we finish the 3rd breath, slide the hips forward so that we're resting on our belly, and then let the knees do a couple of windshield wipers left and right, just loosening up any tension that might be present. Good. When that starts to feel okay in the hips, open the mat back out and take just a moment with child pose, feeling our hips sinking backward toward our heels. And here we come back up to downward facing dog. So tuck the toes, lift the hips. Feel how much the legs have stretched and opened up since the beginning of class. So now float the right leg up to the sky. Bend the knees, sending the toes just a little bit behind you, that good hip opener again. Straightening back up. Send the side of the knee under and through like pigeon pose. The back knee scoots back. And we're going to try a little variation before we come all the way down. So this is heading toward mermaid pose. Not everybody is able to get to mermaid the first try, so don't feel any sort of pressure. If you can't get even the first step, just stay right here with the hands planted and we're in a slight back bend. That'll get us closer and closer toward that mobility. So if you're heading toward the mermaid, I usually take this right hand onto my right thigh. That'll help me lift the back bend up even deeper. And then as I bend the back knee, my left hand tries to see if I can grab those toes. This might be about as deep as you can go if you can even make it this far. If not, again, hands just on the ground and hold for a moment. So from here, if this is still doing okay, bring the grip of the hand to the inner part of that arch and then start to introduce the foot a little bit deeper. So maybe it's coming in toward toes toward the wrist or toes toward the forearm. If you get all the way to elbow, then you're ready for mermaid. This free hand comes up to the sky and you clasp the hands together behind the head, mermaid pose. So if you made it here, we got 3 more breaths. And when you finish all 3, release. Let that leg drop back down to the ground. And then we're resting back down. One last pigeon pose here. Okay, up to the hands, tuck the back toes, lift up the hips, send the legs into little movements that feel helpful. When you're ready for left leg floats, bend the knee, sending the toes behind you, opening front of that left hip. Leg reaches back up long, and then send the side of the knee under and through. Back knee scoots back. Again, perhaps you're just going to play with the hands on the ground. This is fine. If you're heading up to the mermaid, see if the right hand can grab those right toes from behind, grabbing onto the inner arch. If this is still okay, maybe you're walking the toes up to the wrist, maybe up to the forearm. If you make it up to elbow, bend the elbow. You'll reach this left hand up high and clasp the hands right behind the head. Three more breaths. And with the release, find that beautiful relaxation back into Shavasana. Okay, as we come out of this side, we're heading into that last couple of minutes before our Shavasana. So this can be any last poses your body needs prior to that final relaxation. If there's some of this seated or some of the laying down poses that we did at the beginning that were perfect for your body right now, go back into those shapes and just take, 1 or 2 of those favorites again to give them a chance to stretch. You could also go through some shoulder openers, especially if you're able to reach that foot. That might have been a deep stretch for the shoulders. So maybe you're taking a little stretch here and there. I personally am going to head in toward shoulder stand and then into plow pose. So anybody that wants to follow that with me, go right ahead. But know that you have permission just to do any of the other stretches for this next minute or 2, whatever feels good. So if you're going to the shoulder stand, I rock back until my hands can grab my hips, and then I walk my elbows together underneath me. I start to straighten my legs up, and here I'm in that shoulder stand. So enjoying a few breaths. And I might play with one leg, trying to reach far down toward the ground, exploring any of that amount of stretch I've created through this class into the hamstrings. And then the other leg. And then with both legs together, I might head toward plow pose, both toes trying to reach for the ground right above the head. If the toes touch the ground, I can release my hands into a nice clasped position. Take another good inhale. And exhale. If you're here, you would, as slowly as possible, try to unwind until your hips are on the ground. And we're rocking through that low back and sacrum like we started off with class. If there's still movements that your body needs prior to Shavasana, keep on exploring them. At some point sooner or later, you'll feel completely ready to relax. Maybe this is normal Shavasana, legs straight, maybe feet together like a cobbler's pose, or maybe even feet planted, knees falling in toward one another, protecting that low back. So no matter what position you choose, imagine with each breath you take, it's like you're sending energy a little bit higher up the spine. So maybe the first couple of breaths are clear down into the root chakra and the sacral chakra. Tuning into that area, feel how stretched out and how energized, how alive those cells are after this class. And then just continue to breathe, noticing if the energy is willing to try to move higher and higher up the spine with each breath that we take. Begin to deepen your inhales and your exhales. Introducing little movements back to fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. Eventually rolling over to a fetal position on one side. Enjoying maybe 3 or 4 more good deep breaths until we feel ready to rise. When we come up, we'll join our hands together in front of our hearts. And just listen to how the hips and the hamstrings and the legs feel at this moment. So active, so energized, so alive. Notice perhaps if you were having any sort of root or sacral chakra issues at the beginning of class, such as feeling maybe anxious about the future or feeling that sense of survival being in question, notice if you were feeling any of that, perhaps some of that energy has dissipated a little bit. Maybe not dissipated, maybe that's not the right word, because energy is not created or destroyed, it's transformed. So perhaps it's transformed to a slightly higher emotion, maybe a little bit higher up the spine. So as we continue to go toward this marvelous week, let's keep that idea of lifting our emotional vibrational state such that we just feel better and better. And a little hint, if you're having trouble lifting it, think of a gratitude. That'll help you tremendously. So with these ideas to lead us on to this marvelous week, let's wrap up the time we got to share together today with a sound of Om. Deep inhale now. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.